Hello, welcome or welcome back depending on if you're new here. Today I have a mini haul of some watercolor paints. I have a couple of paints from Beam Paints and I have some shimmer paints from Boku Undo. If you haven't heard of Beam Paints, they are an indigenous-owned Canadian handmade watercolor paint company. They use plastic-free packaging and they have these really cool wooden paint palettes. Definitely look them up if you haven't seen them before, they're so pretty. I have a few of their paints, but not a lot, and every so often they'll do a release of imperfect paints. So the paint itself is totally fine, but the packaging might be a little messed up, maybe there's a typo somewhere, maybe some paint got on the packaging, something like that. So the paint is fine, but something got a little messed up and it doesn't look perfect. So you can get a little bundle of them for a little cheaper than their normal prices. The catch here is that you can't choose the colors. I don't have a ton of their paints, so I don't really mind not being able to choose the colors. So as soon as they sent out an email saying they had Imperfects stocked, I was like, oh, let's go. So they do also try to curate what you get so that it's more of a cohesive mini set. I'm also swatching shimmer paints from Boku Undo. This set was a gift from a friend and I'm really excited about it. I believe these are Japanese sumi watercolors, so a little different than the watercolors that I've used before, and I'm looking forward to testing them out and seeing how they feel. This is a pearlescent set, so they are shimmery, and I'm swatching them on both black and white paper so that you can really see all that you can do with them. For the Beam paints, I got a lot of their dried gouache colors this time, which I totally don't mind, so they're more opaque than watercolors. So, here we are, we're starting off with butter. This is a very light yellow. It definitely does remind me of butter. It's a very smooth color as well. It is a gouache, so it's thicker, and you can definitely tell that there's a white pigment in there. It is PY74 and PW6. I do have lines on each of these swatches in Sharpie so you can see how opaque they are, which is especially useful for the ones that are dried gouache. Second, we have Fall Poplar Yellow, which is a traditional watercolor. It is PY74. This is a really pretty golden yellow. It is something I could see myself using in a landscape for sure, and maybe I'll probably try it in a sky and see what happens for a sun or during a sunset. Next we have Wild Rose. This is a very light pink, similar to butter in that you can really tell that there's a white pigment in there. This is another gouache one. It's PR122 and PW6. This is definitely the lightest pink that I own, and I'm kind of excited to use this as a little flowers in a landscape. Because it just has just the slightest tint of pink to it. It's a little hard to tell in the video. I'm going to have to see if I can color correct it, but I will do my best with that. Next is Robin's Egg Blue. This is PG7 and PW6. This is a very light turquoise blue, another just kind of slightly tinted color. It's really pretty. It does seem aptly named. Next is Spring Green. This is the other traditional watercolor. It is a bright yellow green with an emphasis on yellow. It is pigment. What is pigment? It is pigment PB15.1 and PY74. Last from Beam Paints we have Milkweed. This is also a lighter green but much less yellow than the Spring Green, and this one is one of the gouaches. It's definitely the most opaque out of the colors that I received, and it is PW6, PB15.1, and PY7. And now moving on to the shimmery paints. As I said before, I'll do black and white paper so that I can really compare, because sometimes pearlescent paints look much different on white than they do black. So far, these are thicker than regular watercolors, so we'll see how that goes. The first one is smoked silver. I don't have the pigments for this, so I just put the color number underneath. So that P30 in the bottom left corner, I don't know what that means. It's not a pigment as far as I can tell. This is thicker than I thought it was going to be, definitely more opaque. I kind of like it. You can tell right off the bat that it doesn't feel quite like a regular watercolor. Like the consistency is thicker along with the actual look of it. But it did spread out nicely when I added more water. The good part about it being thicker is that you can really see on the white paper, whereas sometimes with pearlescent paints, it's a much more subtle color. Copper is similar in that it's very opaque. It's very brown, sparkly copper color. Fern green is a light greenish shimmer color. It's not a super strong green, it's more of a green tint. I don't know why, but when I saw this color, it really made me think of fairy wings. Like that was the first thing that popped into my mind. I'm not entirely sure why, but it does. I feel like if I was painting fairy wings, this is the color that I would use. For sky blue, thought this was going to be a stronger blue tint, but I kind of like the way that it looks. It looks like a very light blue, but the shimmer itself is a bit darker. So this is one of those ones where looking at it on black versus white is a much bigger difference. You can really see that darker blue come out in the black paper more than on the white paper. Bronze is also interesting, as I would have expected it to be a brown color, but this is definitely a blue. It's a lighter blue than sky blue for sure, closer to how fern green is, where it's just a tint of the color, as opposed to, very strong. And then the last color here is purple, which is surprisingly pinkish, especially on the white paper, but it's really pretty. I don't use black paper all that often, but it is something that I want to explore more, and maybe now that I have these shimmers and also the more opaque gouache paints from Beam Paints, maybe I'll test them all out on black paper and see what happens, because sometimes I like when shimmers are more of an accent rather than the whole painting in very bright glitter. Although, there's merits for that too. So, you know what? We'll see. There's experimenting to be done, and I am happy to do it. I think that I will have a lot of fun with these new paints, and I'm excited to have them as part of my collection. And yeah, if you've stuck with me this long, I really appreciate you. Let me know that you've made it this far by telling me if you've ever tried any of these paints, or which paints are on your list to try next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.